Thank you. Anand Shah is head of PMS and AIF Investments at ICICI Pru Asset Management Company. He's joining us now to take some questions. Anand, good to have you with us here. Thank you very much. Since you have a longer-term time view as well, but I was more interested to begin with, at least in the slightly nearer to medium term. Are things looking a little overdone, overcooked, Anand? I mean, just looking at what the markets have been doing or not being able to do, so close to new highs, but faltering. Or you won't read too much into it. Any thoughts?
Hi, very good afternoon to all of you at studio as well as to the viewers. I think you're right, yeah, that's a common observation. But you have to see it relatively. Relatively, if you ask me, India is still a shining star in that sense. And there are a couple of reasons for that. I think not only that India had not overspent during the COVID crisis, so our fiscal deficits and our forex reserves were still within benign limits, and to that extent, that's been helping today, where we have been able to push for some growth at this point of time. Similarly, China plus one leading to some uptick in manufacturing more recently with high energy prices in Europe is also helping shift some bit of manufacturing from a high cost Europe towards India has a lot of coal reserves, and our energy prices are relatively more benign today compared to what we are seeing in Europe. And to that extent, that's also helping. So the sentiments are positive for India,
right,
while fundamentally, still on the earnings front, things have softened in this Q2 than what it was till the last one.
So tactically, just tactically, I mean, all of the relative points all hold very true as you outlined. But tactically, in the near term, could we run into a bit of rough weather, in your opinion?
No, again, as I said, there are two legs to the markets. There is earnings, which is we can sort of predict, and we can say, yeah, that's struggling a bit here till the Europe recovers, till the US, we have some clarity on where is the growth for US. It's still tapering off, going into recession. So yeah, we can predict to some extent that earnings would not be as benign as it was till last quarter. It's a bit of challenged. But within that, you have banks who are doing very well, manufacturing still chugging along. The part which we are, which is still in a dilemma, which is where the PE multiples are going. And very clearly there, a big lever would be coming in from the global markets, what's happening in US, whether we've seen the peak of interest rates, have we seen the most hawkishness that we can have from the US Fed, and that's something which can continue to drive the markets up. So I know markets will always be calling the markets in the short term will be tricky, and it's no different this time. But nevertheless, we are more bottom up when it comes to approaching the markets at this point of time, and there very clearly our overweight positions are towards more banking, where the earnings still remains robust, bit of manufacturing, bit of mining, where again, we have seen a very long-term underinvestment. So outside China, there has been underinvestment in manufacturing, mining. That's also looking up structurally rather than cyclically. Cyclically, yeah, it can be a little soft here and there, but structurally, I believe that's an opportunity.
All right. Hi, Anand. Good afternoon. Nigel on this side. Anand, you're making that point about mining, and we had some flashes that were up for our viewers on the screen. That the Steel Minister, Mr. Scindia, he's written to the Finance Ministry. He's given them a presentation, and he's requesting that to roll back this export duty that has been levied, both on pellets as well as on finished steel as well. And keep in mind that in May itself of this year, they'd imposed these export duty to the tune of around 15 to around 45%. I'm looking at your contra fund, and I believe that you're positive on Tata Steel. Give us a rationale out there. You believe that the Ferris cycle could still look up from here?
So I think, as I was speaking just now, outside China, there has been a sort of underinvestment in manufacturing in general. Even if you see last decade and a half, most of the incremental steel capacities have come in there. But things are changing there, particularly from a trend perspective. We are seeing lower steel production in China. We are seeing China focusing less on commodity manufacturing and focusing more on value-added manufacturing. rightly so, given that it's a far more prosperous country today than what it was a decade back or 1.5 decades back. So what we are seeing, there's a window of opportunity where, in pockets of manufacturing where India has a right to win, and definitely metals is where we have enormous reserves, both on the iron ore as well as on the bauxite side. So I think those are the opportunities where India has a right to win. Again, macro-wise, we have opportunity to win. A very large competitor is scaling down its production structurally as it focuses more on pollution in their own country. So I think from that perspective, we've been not positive today, but been positive on metal sector for a while now in our portfolios.
Anand, GE Shipping is one of your bets, and I think you have close to about a 5% weightage in GE Shipping. You know, the numbers were very good. I think highest ever profits. The company turned debt-free as well in the quarter gone by. But the stock has done phenomenally well. It's doubled this year itself. So at a time when many of the stocks have struggled, GE Shipping is up 100%. Could you talk about the industry dynamics which support GE Shipping to continue to do well after this kind of outperformance?
Yeah, so I can't really talk on the stock specific, but definitely you spoke about the industry trends, and there. While the container freight rates are coming off, and that's been saving grace for many of manufacturing industries in this country, which was reeling under a high freight rates on the container side. But the areas like crude tankers, product tankers, areas like dry bulk, those are the areas where we are seeing still a stronger demand situation. There has been a movement in the area in which the crude is moving. Previously, the crude was moving from Russia, Europe. Now it's moving from Russia all the way up to Asia. So there has been an additional ton-mile requirement when it comes to the crude tankers and the product tankers, and that's where we are seeing a significant improvement in the overall finances for the players which are operating in those areas, and that's what's been helping this sector for a while. You have to mind you, this is not a phenomena which this has been a very long, dry run for the operators operating in crude tankers and product tankers, where we had almost a decade when the profitability was below par. It's coming out of a very long bearish zone, and it's entering a zone where incremental demand is strong, whereas the supply is limited.
Right, no, absolutely. I mean, it was a dog of a stock, Rima, right? For the longest time.
He said a decade of underperformance and I think negative growth, right?
Yeah.
Or losses for companies like GE Shipping.
Typical, right? I mean, you never know when
the cycle turns.
When the cycle turns, and extremely cyclical as a business as well. But I think the last big year was 2008. Actually, 2007 and 2008 were very large years in terms of price moves, and then you've got to come to 2022. And what it has done.
But in the first leg of the up move, there are so many skeptics. There is always disbelief because you have, your history of the last 10 years with you saying, oh, I think this is a stock which you should ignore, but look at the way it's run up.
It reminds me of, I don't know if you've spoken about, Vardhaman is another one of Anand's picks, but it reminds me of Gokuldas, right? Gokuldas, I think the last high was again 2007, 2008, did nothing. And then from the COVID lows, it made a move which basically stopped at previous all-time highs, right? So very, very difficult, impossible to time these things. When stocks will do well, you can bet on a story, but timing is impossible. Anand, any thoughts on things like PB Fintech, which are seeing large moves higher? We'll have our research analyst join us with more details on the latest there, but since we have you, any views there?
So I think these are the emerging industries in that sense. They have been also in a way disruptors. They don't have a very long history. So we've been shifting from industry which has a very long history and a strong cash flows to industry which are emerging industries and have very little cash flows to talk about. So they're very different. To be very honest, we've been skeptical on overall space, where we believed that the valuations at which these companies were the expectations were very high from them in terms of growth, in terms of turnarounds and profitability. And rightly so, we've been stayed away from the sector. But having said that, the corrections have been sharp. There will be a couple of those businesses which make sense, have a right to win. Not all of them have a right to win. Some of them will have a right to win. Some of them will also see light of the day when you will have cash flows to back the current valuations. So yes, we are continuously evaluating these businesses, and they will also at some point of time stabilize. So some of them are still having evolving business models. So it's very difficult to speak generally about these companies. We've been evaluating each one of them. We have a strong research team working on that, and at some point of time we'll have a view on those names. But today we've been happily avoiding that sector for the time being.
Okay, Anand, always good hearing your thoughts. Thanks so much for stopping by. Wishing you a good Friday evening and a pleasant weekend as well ahead. By the way, the bulls are putting in a bit of a fight. They don't want to go home closer to around 18,200. It seems they have a date closer to around 18,300. And I say that because a few of these stocks, Reliance Industries has come off the low point of the day. Pull up the intraday chart, that will tell you a better story. You have ICICI Bank as well, that's cut its losses, so that as well has moved up. And HUL, we highlighted that one. Well, that as well is pulling back a little bit from the day's low. So good pullback is what we're seeing. The Nifty Bank on the verge of moving into the green. Let's see how the final 30 minutes goes. For the time being, slip into a short break. Come back. We'll focus on dealing rules. Nimesh will be joining in to tell us what he's picking up in terms of D-Street chatter. Our technical guest as well will be back with us.